and be sure you take iodine every day for at least the next 6 months or year. It may save your life. And remember the epidemic of thyroid cancer during and after bomb testing? We don't need to have that happen to us. We can prevent it if we just do simple things. You can also put the iodine on the skin of your abdomen or anywhere out of sight. It washes off in the shower and it goes right through your skin. So please just do that every day. It's so cheap to do. The half-life of iodine 131 is 8.5 days. It takes 10 half-lives for the radiation to diminish. So that's 85 days before it's diminished. And you want to flood your thyroid and your body with iodine so that it prevents uptake of the radioactive iodine. When you damage the thyroid, that is causing obesity, immune system damage, all kinds of problems in the body. The thyroid signals the mother's brain to control development of the brain in the developing baby. So it's pregnant women and babies and children and the elderly who are the most damaged, because people in their early and middle years are pretty healthy, they have functioning immune systems, and they're more able to survive the damage from the free radicals that are released by the radiation particles. Now, not only are the food baskets poisoned with radiation, but it's going to bankrupt the farmers, the Japanese farmers and the farmers in the West. And that allows the international bankers to buy that farmland, they own a lot of it already, and to begin farming that radioactive farmland and feeding us food products that are contaminated. But they also are growing food in India. The Rothschilds have bought up huge amounts of farmland. Monsanto is also there with modified food. And the Rothschilds planned a long time ago to bankrupt the Japanese and European farmers so they could be the ones to sell them food. Why are they doing this? It's because there are 3 ways to create new wealth: banking, agriculture, mining. They already have control of banking. They're getting control of the food supply, and they certainly control mining. So that is one of the economic factors behind disasters like this, and there are going to be more. This is just the beginning. Yeah.
What about where to get food?
Huh?
Where do we find food? Grow our own, but you can't grow it outside. So you can do sprouting, but what else do we?
I really haven't found an answer to that because I'm trying to figure it out for myself. What I recommended, I've been evacuating people from Tokyo and Hawaii because they're going to be the most impacted, although the west coast of North America is very impacted as well. But I recommended that people go to the southern hemisphere. And some of my Japanese friends took their children and fled Japan. They went to Okinawa, and I said, it's down there now. You have to go to the southern hemisphere. And it's especially for the small children. It's very hard to evacuate Japanese because culturally, whatever happens, they suffer through it, or they tread through it, or they just stay together and go through it together. And maybe that's the best way to do it. But I don't think it's good to sacrifice the children to be with the elderly. I don't think the elderly want their bloodlines to end in that way. So it's like it's a terrible choice. If you leave with your children, you feel guilty and horrible about leaving the elderly behind and other members of the family. But if you stay, your future, your genetic future of your family and your bloodline is very compromised. These are the radioactive iodine levels that have been measured, as you can see on the bottom. March 14th on the bottom left corner is the first one, and it goes all the way to, let's see, April 4th on the right side. The top dotted line in sort of a mustard color is the highest levels reached during Chernobyl, for comparison. The very bright pink line on the top is the Japan measurements, and as you can see, it's very irregular depending on the releases and maybe weather patterns too, but mostly the timing of the releases. Right underneath it is a black line. That is Hawaii, and you can see that Hawaii is even higher than the western U.S., but they have very high rainfall. So it's geography and weather that determine where the radiation gets rained out and what concentrations and so forth and so on, the details of it. This is the eastern U.S. This is Iceland, and the radiation went through the Arctic Ocean down past Greenland and contaminated Iceland. This is Stockholm in Norway. They got pretty high levels. Yes, Sweden. This is Russia. I'm sorry, no, this is the Azores, which is in the eastern Atlantic. This is western Russia. You can see the weather patterns made at higher and lower. And let's see, is there one more? Oh, this is Schoen Island. Schoen Island, that's in the Black Forest. It's a mountain in the Black Forest of Germany. Now what's really interesting, this is the west coast of North America. Look how flat that is compared to Japan and some of these others. What happened on the 17th is the day the letters went to medical doctors in counties in California instructing them not to give patients radioactive iodine. On the 17th, in the Bay Area, Southern California, and in Arizona, I've had reports that chemtrails were very, very heavy in the sky. They were putting them up all day long. On the morning of the 18th, they continued in the Bay Area, and at 11 a.m. on the 18th, Friday the 18th, all of a sudden the sky went completely black over the Bay Area. There was thunder and lightning, the lights flickered, and some of my friends went outside and they told me there was a huge vortex in the sky over the Bay Area. That's very, very unusual. I've never seen it ever. And at 11:10 a.m. it started pouring rain. Tornado warnings came out on the TV, warning everyone in the Bay Area that there were tornadoes to put towels around their heads and go in their basements. And it rained day and night for 2 weeks. And that is why that West Coast iodine level is so flat, because it was rained out into our environment. And that was weather modification. It was the military doing that. HAARP. This is Chernobyl, just to show you the contamination of the Ukraine. Is that? Yeah, I think that's Chernobyl. And basically, if you overlay this on the top third of Japan, it probably gives you a pretty good idea. It's almost the same area of the disaster in Japan, but it's actually worse. Oh, thank you. Thanks. These are now the liquid, the contaminated water emissions, millions and millions of gallons of highly contaminated water that they're dumping into the ocean. Now, the U.S. military took shiploads of fresh water when the American government urgently requested Japan to stop using salt water. And it was going to restrict the flow of water. The salt crystals would build up in the pipes and the reactors and everything. But instead of putting the contaminated water in the barges that the U.S. military brought, they're dumping it in the ocean. Now, maybe the barges couldn't carry all of it, but this is going to get caught up in the great conveyor belt which is, global circulation in the oceans of basically the heat that determines climate on this planet. And I wrote a paper, it's called Global Implications of Sellafield, the Irish Seacoast Effect and Beyond, a few years ago in Namaste magazine. And what I was able to show is that the British had been dumping the largest amounts of radiation into the Irish Sea. They were the greatest radioactive polluter in the world, and their own scientists testified to that in the Environmental Committee of the British Parliament. And what they were doing, I was able to figure out with an Indian engineer who calculated for me the amount of radiation and the number of baby deaths in India from that poison being dumped into the Irish Sea that got into that conveyor belt. That moves at 1.5 miles an hour. It's a huge current. It's stronger than all the rivers in the whole, on all the continents of the world. And what he was able to demonstrate mathematically is that that poisoning from Sellafield traveled all the way to the Indian Ocean where that current upwells, and it caused the deaths of 25 million Indian babies. It also has poisoned the coast of Africa, and just where the current almost touches the coast of Africa where it sticks out into the Atlantic is Senegal. It washes up on the beaches there, and they have the highest pregnant mother mortality in the world there. Afghanistan now is the second highest. So you can see where that current is going in the Pacific, up around the Aleutians, the northern part of the Pacific Ocean, and then it upwells in the Aleutians, and that is going to wash onto all the shorelines of North America.